The gentlelady from Florida, Ms. Luna.
Thank you so much for being here. To just correct my colleague from across the aisle, China is a boogeyman. And as we see moving forward towards 2023, they are not here to be our friends, they are coming to eat our lunch. But furthermore, the reason why we focus on China is if you've read any of the materials presented before this committee, you will see that China is indeed working with cartels and the government of Mexico in order to bring fentanyl into this country. As someone who've had many of my family members impacted by that, it's not just a black and brown issue, and I say that as a Hispanic American woman. This is an issue affecting all communities regardless of socioeconomic status or race. And so to say that we are sitting here wasting people's times because we are addressing the very real threat of China is actually something that's a slap in the face to every single American that's actually ever had a family member that struggled with drug addiction. So save me the pearl clutching. To ask some of questions of you, Ms. Morales, do you know if any BRICS countries are currently aiding in some of these CMLOs that are currently engaged with this illegal black market exchange?
I'm unaware of any BRICS countries. There's definitely issues. You have issues in terms of Brazil and synthetics being produced there. It also serves as an exit country for narcotics going to Europe. India has similar issues with currency controls, so there can be challenges there in terms of accessing U.S. capital or other capital. But another issue is definitely Russia in terms of not necessarily involving narcotics money laundering here, but accessing, the U.S. financial system or trying to evade sanctions. But by far, it's definitely China that is responsible for. And I say China, I'm kind of using this as both the government as well as illicit, state and non-state actors. They're responsible for a lot of the transnational crime as well as illicit financial flows that are occurring.
Thank you. Mr. Urban, can you tell me what the policy is in China for if you're caught selling drugs?
Severe, criminal penalties and prison sentence if you're caught selling drugs. I don't know the exact.
To my understanding, it's execution.
Okay.
So the reason I bring that up is because there seems to be this notion and idea that if you want border security because you want to protect people from actually consuming and bringing drugs into this country, that somehow it's considered inhumane. But I would ask anyone on this panel if they've ever had a family member that's been strung out to see the long-term impacts of that. In my opinion, if you are selling drugs to someone, if you are responsible for their death, you do deserve the death penalty because you're ruining a life and you're ruining a family. Mr. Ruggiero, could you tell me what can we do as part of Congress to ensure that we are obviously functioning in a nonpartisan fashion in an effort to really protect the United States from this continued issue with China?
Well, thank you. In my written testimony, I talk about different ways to improve the Fentanyl Sanctions Act, which was a bipartisan effort, several years ago. I think there's ways to increase oversight measures to make sure that the administration is actually tackling the role of Chinese banks. As I noted in my opening and in my written testimony, there's this fear of going after Chinese banks, and as Mr. Urban showed, the other thing, if I could use his graphic, there, the dark lines there, the black lines, ensure that there are sort of three separate financial systems having those transactions. And so what we really need, as I said in my written and my oral testimony, is we need the Chinese banks, we need them incentivized to look for these types of transactions. And part of that comes from us not being afraid to use the tools, the United States that is, that we have. And if the administration doesn't have those tools, to come to Congress and ask them for it.
Thank you so much for your time. Obviously, we're here to get answers. Chairwoman, I yield my time.